A storm rages over the ocean. A disgusting dark figure looms over a frightened young girl. The figure tells the girl that she's a daughter of the Taboo Emperor and will bear a burden of destiny, and warns of the eldritch horrors she'll unleash unto the world. Many years after this encounter, we see the same girl named Chaika Trabant hiking in the mountains. She wears a pristine white dress and carries a coffin that's almost twice her size. She's hiding among the bushes when she meets Toru Akira, who is a brokey foraging for herbs and mushrooms. This is seemingly an ordinary event by all accounts. But in the grand scheme of things in their world, this is a fateful encounter. Toru's instincts tell him that this girl is lost in the mountains. With her innocent looks and peculiar speech pattern, there's no doubt that she's a bit awkward. He offers to help her get out of the mountain forest if she buys him a meal. Initially, Chaika distrusts him, but something appears that necessitates them to work together. A creature known as a Phalar walks towards them. There are many variants of a Phalar, and the one that menacingly approaches them is a unicorn type. It charges towards them, which prompts them to run away. A cliff looms ahead, and they have no choice but to jump into the river below. Thankfully, they manage to save themselves at a nearby rocky riverbank. But Toru is certain the unicorn will follow them soon. True enough, it appears on the cliff they just jumped from. Then it runs towards them by stepping on magical circles in mid-air. Phylas are creatures known to utilize magic, earning them notoriety in their world. Toru is aware of this, so he gets ready to fight. Chaika also helps by popping the trunk open, revealing several parts of a Gundo sniper rifle. Toru realizes she's a wizard, and understands that he must buy time so she can load her deathly hollow points. Without pause, Toru starts seeing red and recites a chant to utilize his iron blood transformation. It's a battle technique that enhances mental focus, thereby granting him physical prowess in combat. It turns his hair and eyes red, which is fitting for a hard-hitting saboteur like him. He meets the unicorn in a tackle, successfully distracting it from attacking the girl. It's a short but intense grapple between him and the unicorn. When they're in mid-air, Chaika tells him to get away. Toru sees Chaika has a chamber full of secrets ready for the creature. Chaika recites a spell which forms magical circles around her rifle. She shoots, cutting the unicorn in half and defeating it. After the battle, they introduce themselves to each other. As a thank you gift, Chaika treats him to breakfast. The pair proceed to a restaurant in the nearby city called Del Sorant. Toru eats heartily as Chaika looks at him. Just then, a woman appears and attacks him. From the woman's monologue, other customers think Toru is a certified city boy who left his wife to find food just for himself. But they're mistaken in their assumptions. The woman is actually Akari Akura, Toru's younger sister, and a saboteur as well. After causing trouble, destroying things, and letting Chaika pay for all the damages, the Akura siblings straighten things out. Toru explains what happened. Chaika looks at them, in awe of the strength they showed. Right there and then, she offers them a job. A crucial job that will help her in her goals. Meanwhile, in a wealthier part of Del Sorant, a large automobile is entering the driveway of a mansion. The automobile belongs to Alberic Gillette, a nobleman from the capital city of Vermac. He visits the hero, Count Robert Abarth. The latter welcomes Gillette. He's aware that the nobleman is part of the Kleeman organization, a post-war restoration agency created after the Great War. Gillette doesn't beat around the bush and tells the Count straight up that he needs to retrieve the item given to him after the war. Count Abarth scoffs at this, saying no matter how righteous Gillette's intentions are, he won't give up the item. And with that, he orders his maid to lead the guests out of the door. After this fruitless visit, Gillette regroups with his members. They form the so-called Gillette's Corps, a subunit of the Kleeman organization with a very specific task. There are 6 of them, with Gillette acting as the leader. He shares with his members what went on with his meeting with the Count. He has observed the lax security of the place, which isn't normal for someone like the Count. To verify his suspicions, he permits Leo to carry out reconnaissance. Another member named Matthias reports about the unicorn he sent out to hunt their target. He says the mission is a failure, adding that it's surprising to find the creature split in half. This means their adversary is stronger than expected. Back to Chaika and the Akura siblings. Chaika tells them that the job is to steal a very important item from someone named Count Abarth. Toru is surprised, saying he doesn't expect the job to involve a high-profile personality. Count Abarth is considered a hero after fighting in the Great War years ago, but he sees how determined Chaika is with her goal. So despite not knowing what they're going to steal, or why they are stealing it, Toru accepts the job. Akari, faithful and loyal to her brother, follows. That night they infiltrate the Abarth mansion. Toru is getting suspicious about the lack of security, but they carry on. As soon as he opens a latch to one of the windows, the Count wakes up from his sleep. Chaika conducts a spell using her rifle to locate the item. She finds it at the center of the mansion. Toru decides it's best for them to search for it separately. Toru proceeds to one of the parlors, where he's lucky enough to meet the Count himself. Abarth thinks he's from the Kliman organization, impressed that he managed to infiltrate his mansion. But it's useless since he won't allow anyone to steal that precious item. He then manipulates the weapons decorating the walls and aims them at Toru. Count Abarth is a wizard who can use powerful telekinesis. Toru dodges them just in time for Chaika and Akari to enter the room. Upon seeing the white girl, the Count stops in his tracks. He can't believe the girl is still alive after all these years. Taking advantage of the Count's shock, Toru pulls the girls into another room, avoiding the flying swords sent after them. There, Chaika informs the siblings that the whole mansion may be the Count's gundo, a term for a weapon that can channel a wizard's magic. This implies that everything inside is within his mind's control. After assessing the situation, Toru decides that the best strategy for them is for him to distract the Count while the girls keep looking for the item. Since it's at the center, the Count's bedroom may be its location. With that, the three go on their separate tasks. Toru faces Count Abarth again. He proves to be a worthy fighter. With all things inside the mansion under his control, it's challenging to get past his guard. Toru does his best, but the Count manages to hit him from his blind spot. On the other hand, the girls enter the Count's bedroom. Using her mace, Akari begins to pound at every piece of furniture, hoping to see a hidden chest or a secret compartment. She finds it after smashing a mirror on the wall, but it's protected by a spell. Chaika uses her rifle to shoot a spell that will shatter the barrier. When they open the safe, they find a cylinder nestled in a network of wires, connected to the house. Preserved inside the cylinder is a severed hand, with pins keeping it in place. Chaika becomes a bit emotional after seeing it. They take the cylinder, then they get out of there to rescue Toru. The removal of the cylinder is just in time to stop two armors from attacking him. They find him in the hall with the Count panicking about the loss of his powers. Toru ties him upside down, but even then he attempts to negotiate with Chaika. That cylinder is a great source of magical power, and he can't bear to lose it along with all his wealth. But Toru guides Chaika away from the Count. They must leave immediately. After a successful heist, the trio stops at an empty street. Chaika is grateful to have them help her retrieve this important item. She pays them handsomely, as agreed, but Toru doesn't accept it. He feels that there is something more than this. Their meeting is interrupted by the arrival of Gillette and two of his subordinates, Vivi and Nikolai. There's no time to waste for both parties. Akari uses a smokescreen to distract their enemies. Toru grabs the cylinder and lets Gillette and others chase him, while Akari pulls Chaika out of the way. After a few minutes, Nikolai manages to catch up with Toru on an empty bridge. A fight ensues. Nikolai is a good fighter, but Toru is more cunning. He throws the cylinder, which distracts him. After a few moves, Toru stabs him in the arm. However, before he escapes, he gets cornered by Gillette and Vivi on one side, and the large automobile on the other. Toru is smart enough to understand that he can escape them, but his curiosity about the cylinder in his hands and all the troubles that it causes gets the better of him. Gillette chooses to oblige him by telling him what he knows. He reveals that the hand used to belong to Arthur Gaz, who was known by many names: the Taboo Emperor, the Demon King, the Great Sage, the Mad Wizard, and many others. But one thing was true about him. He's an accomplished sorcerer who conquered the continent of Verbist and ruled there for 500 years. Throughout his rule, he exposed the continent to many dangers and creatures, causing suffering to many. Then, 5 years ago, brave heroes decided to put an end to his tyranny. The great battle ensued, with the heroes battling the might of Emperor Gaz and winning the fight. It was said that his remains were distributed among the 8 heroes who joined the fight, with Count Abarth as one of them. However, the Emperor's influence is not easily quelled. There are rumors that many of his subordinates are planning a revival of the Empire by using his daughter. The white-haired girl that Toru is helping is not Chaika Trabant. Her real name is Chaika Is, who is tasked to retrieve all the Emperor's remains from the heroes, put them together and recreate his father's empire. Each of the remains is an immense source of magic, which can fuel any gundo or amplify magical skills. Now that Chaika has made her presence known, it's imperative for Gillette and his organization to capture her and prevent her from completing her goals. He convinces the saboteur to hand over the cylinder and let them capture the girl. Toru listens intently to Gillette's story. After a few seconds, he comes up with a decision. He will stick with Chaika and help her achieve her goals. He's a saboteur whose code is to never betray the master who hires them. In addition, his skills are more needed in war times, which has become non-existent after the defeat of the Emperor. Even with the knowledge of an impending war in the near future, Toru will remain loyal to the task at hand. Gillette is surprised at this, mainly because what Toru said is similar to his own philosophies, and yet so vastly different. He's loyal to his task, which is to keep the peace and order after the war, and prevent any instances that will incite it. Their conversation is interrupted when Akari jumps between them. Then, from below the bridge, Chaika shoots a blinding spell that allows the siblings to escape. Later, Chaika tells them her true intentions. She's not interested in any empire revivals. All she wants is to retrieve the remains of her father and give him a proper burial. Toru has no evidence on whether this is true or not, but he's a saboteur, and his master's goals are his. So he decides to join Chaika in her quest. As for Akari, she goes wherever her big brother goes, and so the three of them form a party in quest of Emperor Gaz's remains. Their journey brings them to Ipsum, the next big city. Toru realizes that their little party garners weird looks from the onlookers, mainly because of Chaika and her coffin. There's also the problem of transportation. He expects that Gillette will put out wanted posters for them, so travelling in public will attract trouble for them. His goal in Ipsum is, first, to find a vehicle they can use for travelling, and second, to gather information about the heroes who can have the remains. As they enter the city, Chaika becomes childishly excited upon seeing great varieties of merchandise. She's like a girl who needs to be stopped from impulse buying more plushies. The three of them make a stop at a restaurant to have their meal. Chaika reveals that she has an informant who told her about Counterbuth. However, she doesn't know who the informant is, implying that she never considered whether the information passed to her is true or not. Toru sighs. This is another issue that he needs to be vigilant about. Chaika is very trusting and naive. If any cold-hearted miscreants get a hold of Chaika, they can easily take her as long as they tell her they know where to find her father's remains. Akari shares with them the rumours she heard while in town. They say that the city's ruler is a dragoon cavalier who joined the Great War 5 years ago. The waitress overhears their conversation and adds that they never actually saw their ruler. It's understandable, she says, since the people are all afraid of the dragoon she has a contract with. It's said that it's the most feared out of all the failures in the land. With this information, Toru settles on finding this ruler. However, they spot the large automobile run by Gillette's Corps. They sure work fast and hard to track them. They hide in an alley, and that's when Chaika's informant finally makes his appearance, and his name is Guy. There's something unsettling about his aura, despite his ordinary looks. He also possesses magic that's unexplainable to both saboteurs. But Chaika is glad to see him. As expected, he provides them with crucial information for their journey. He says that the city's ruler is a female warrior named Dominica Skoda. She resides in the forest, where they can find abandoned automobiles they can use in their travels. Toru decides to trust Guy's information. Then, to their surprise, he vanishes in thin air. True enough, when they enter the forest and arrive by the lake, they find a couple of automobiles. Chaika is surprisingly knowledgeable on how to run it. An automobile is an invention that uses magic fuels to run, or can be latched onto someone who can use magic and make it work. After setting it up and cleaning it, they use it to travel further into the forest. While driving, Chaika reveals that she has lost some of her memories. She says she was alone outside the nation when the war broke out. She only found out about her father's demise after. There's a gap in her memory because everything after the end of the war is still vague to her. All she knows is that she has to find her father's remains. Their conversation is cut short when they get attacked by Orthros, They're wolf-like failures, ferocious especially when hunting in packs. Their number overwhelms the travelers, who have to abandon their automobile to take cover. Toru faces the Orthros, but he takes a serious hit from the pack leader. Just as it prepares to paw at him, a female warrior appears. She has a regal stature. Her blonde hair softens her otherwise domineering aura with the armor suit. She orders the Orthros to scramble away. When the failures are gone, she offers Toru and the others shelter in her mansion in the forest. Meanwhile, the Gillette Corps discuss their next step. They're persistent in their reconnaissance, but their quarry proves to be elusive. Gillette shares with his group his correspondence with Chief Conrad, the leader of the Kleeman organization. He has requested reinforcements from the headquarters, but the chief denied this. Instead, he fulfilled Gillette's other request, which was to provide available documents about Emperor Gaz. Gillette has determined to find out more about the said emperor. During his conversation with Toru, he realizes there's not much known about the emperor aside from his great sorcery skills. From the documents, he finds out that the organization has previously captured girls who pretended to be Chaika. But all of them either lack credibility or ended their lives to avoid questioning. This probably fueled the organization's belief that someone or some people were after the Empire's revival. After all, sending fake Chaikas around will provide a good cover for the real one. Zeta also brings up something that's been bothering her for a while now. They're ordered to capture Chaika to stop the Empire from rising again, and to gather the Emperor's remains. But the idea seems too abstract, too simple. In addition, if they all manage to gather the remains, what organization is powerful enough to handle them, given their immense magical powers? Leo adds that since there is no available information about the Emperor, the fact that he has a daughter becomes questionable since there's no proof. All these are legitimate concerns. Gillette can't help but become confused about their true mission. In the forest, the female warrior leads Toru and others into the mansion. Even without an introduction, everyone knows that this woman must be Dominika Skoda. She easily changes her suit of armor into a casual dress. They attribute this magic to the influence of the Dragoon, with which she has a contract. Curiously, there's no sign of the feared Phaler in the vicinity. One major thing they noticed is that the mansion looks run down and abandoned. When they roam around the place, they see signs of neglect, even in areas that are expected to be used often. Another unsettling observation is that the mansion is full of portraits and statues of Dominika. They also find a magical projector in the garden, showing her valor in a suit of armor. Even for someone considered narcissistic, this is too much. The abandoned state of the mansion, the numerous portraits of its occupant, and the lack of signs of the supposed Great Dragoon are all making Toru suspicious. When they are settled in one of the rooms, he proposes to use direct questioning and force on Dominika about the remains. Chaika, who has found a stray cat and is now petting it on her lap, disagrees. Dominika has shown them kindness by saving them from Orthros and giving them a place to stay. It isn't right to be rude to a good person. Toru reminds her that Dominika has her father's remains. Above all else, this should be their number one priority. As the employer, Chaika must be assertive. As the employees, Toru and Akari must fulfill their orders. Chaika thinks about what he said when she's alone in the bathroom. She kind of feels bad for not being the right type of master that Toru expects her to be. She soaks in the tub as the cat keeps watch on her. A few minutes later, Akari joins her. As she scrubs Chaika's back, she notices a thin scar around the white girl's neck. She doesn't ask about this, but she opens the discussion about the conversation earlier. She gently reminds her that they're saboteurs. Their master's words are their orders. Toru only wants Chaika to make a sound decision. The white girl understands this point, which allows her to sleep well that night. The next day, the three of them share a meal with Dominika. Toru doesn't waste time and immediately interrogates the warrior about the Emperor's remains. He says he only wants to fulfill the wishes of someone important. Dominika looks knowingly at him. Standing up, she draws her sword and challenges Toru into a fight. She admits she has the remains, and it's currently hidden inside the magical projector in the garden. Toru accepts the challenge. For most of the day, the trio plans on how to beat Dominika. She's not an ordinary warrior, therefore they can't take her lightly. However, Toru thinks she's a fake Dominika. If she's really the rumoured Dragoon Cavalier who took part in the Great War, she should have been shocked when she saw Chaika, just like Count Abarth. But she did not react whatsoever. It's also suspicious that they couldn't find any signs of the Dragoon. However, Chaika confirms that there's a great magical presence around the mansion despite not seeing the Dragoon. They continue their tactical meeting and then take a rest before the agreed time. Once the sun has gone down, Toru and Akari meet with Dominica, who's already donned her suit of armor. The fight starts. It's 2v1, but Dominica is easily holding her own. When stabbed, she heals her wound, making it hard for the siblings to land a serious attack on her. The warrior even gives them an advantage by pointing out that her forehead is her weakness. Eventually, Akari manages to sting her. Dominica keeps on attacking them until Toru gets an inspiration. He kicks the magical projector as well as the other statues in the garden. At this, Dominica becomes agitated. The saboteur posits that the one they're fighting is not Dominica Skoda but her Dragoon. The real one must have passed away a long time ago. At this point, Chaika gets a perfect angle. She shoots a spell at the warrior that forces her to reveal her true nature. And it turns out Toru's hypothesis is true. Dominica turns into a giant, magnificent Dragoon. However, before she can rampage, Akari's poison is already taking effect. The Dragoon becomes a bit groggy and unfocused. Toru takes this chance to hit it in the head and injure it heavily. After the fight, it turns back into an image of its previous master. Then she reveals the truth. Dominica Skoda was a valiant warrior, and as her Dragoon, she was content. After the war, Dominica fell ill, and soon she passed away. She'd always wanted to fight, but the peace that the war's end brought meant a lack of action, and the once sought-after Dragoon had become useless. It had lost its purpose in its existence. To pay homage to her master, the Dragoon built and created statues and portraits of Dominica to make sure she would not forget. She wanted to fight too, but she had not found anyone worthy to be her opponent. She became lonely because she only wanted a reason to keep going. The Dragoon allows them to take the remains from the magical projector. Inside the device is a pair of eyeballs. The Dragoon asks Toru why he's not finishing her off. The saboteur says that killing her is not the point. Besides, he understands its sentiments about wanting to continue living. After all, he himself had almost lost his will before he met Chaika and got employed by her. The Dragoon considers this. Then, it transforms into another, younger woman. She introduces herself as Frederica, and this is her true human form. It seems like she's taken a liking to Toru because she declares that she'll be joining their party in their quest. Her newfound purpose is to fight and finish off the saboteur. Only Toru is not happy about the new addition to their party. But Chaika is content, especially now that she knows Frederica is also the cat from last night. The quartet continues the journey onwards. Their next destination is another major city called Perimeral, but they pass through a smaller town first. Since Guy hasn't shown himself yet, Chaika takes it upon herself to gather information. Just as Toru surmised, Chaika is naive and gullible. She almost gets kidnapped by hooligans if not for him and Frederica saving her. Meanwhile, Gillette's Core is proving effective with their tracking methods. They have put out wanted posters and immediately get tips from the townspeople. However, Leo is a bit confused because the descriptions vary from what they know about Chaika and the saboteurs. Nonetheless, they pursue their quarry with the information they gathered. Toru and the others pass through an abandoned part of the town before proceeding to Perimeral. Frederica chooses to wander off at that moment. There, they are ambushed by a peculiar group consisting of 3 members. One is a spearman named David, while the woman's name is Selma, who is a wizard sniper. But the most peculiar member of this bandit group is the girl who looks and talks exactly like Chaika. At first, both groups are not aware of the 2 girls' similarities until Toru captures the girl and David holds Chaika hostage. Akari attempts to save her friend, but Selma makes sure she'll never get close. Their fight gets interrupted upon the arrival of Gillette's Core. Toru retrieves Chaika's coffin and drags the girl with them. David brings Chaika into a hut deep in the nearby woods, followed by Selma. The saboteurs examine the girl. She really looks like Chaika, with her white hair, purple eyes, and the same thin scar around her neck. But the differences are also obvious. This girl has short hair, wears a red dress, uses a snake blade as a weapon, and has a feisty personality. She says her name is Chaika Bogdan, but to avoid confusion we'll call her Red Chaika. Toru assumes she has the same goals as their Chaika, that is to gather her father's remains to give him a proper burial. To his surprise, Red Chaika shows hatred in her eyes. She says she wants to gather her father's remains so she can revive his empire. And once it's done, she can exact revenge on the enemies and on the supposed allies who deserted her father in times of need. This is a better logical goal for a daughter who lost her father in a war. But more than this, Toru is surprised about the great difference between the two Chaika's goals. Meanwhile, White Chaika is also getting inspected by David. It turns out they're helping Red Chaika look for her father's remains, although they're not saboteurs like Toru and Akari. She has a coffin, just like her. They've met other Chaikas who are also in a quest to find Emperor Gaz's remains. Now this comes as a surprise to the white girl, who doesn't know anything about it. It confuses her how there could be other Chaikas with the same goal as her. Does it have something to do with the memories she lost after the Great War? David leaves her with Selma to check back on the automobile that got the blast from the latter's sniping skills. Pinned on the stuck automobile is a letter written by Toru. It details the time and place where they should exchange hostages. Unbeknownst to both parties, Leo and Matthias from Gillette's Corps have gotten wind of this setup and are now preparing their traps to capture both Chaikas. When dawn comes, Toru and Akari bring Red Chaika to the promised location, which is by a small waterfall. Across the riverbank, David follows White Chaika. Selma is nowhere to be found, presumably having positioned herself so she can cover for her comrade. Once they're at a viewing point of each other, Toru announces that he has placed explosives on Red Chaika's back. This is to ensure that the wizard sniper won't try to do anything funny while the exchange is happening. David calls it a bluff, but Toru says saboteurs don't joke around these kinds of things. Regardless, both sides are amenable, and no other ransoms are demanded. They let their respective hostages cross the river, but again, they get interrupted when several failures called cockatrices fly towards them. Matthias is the one controlling them. He's a wizard whose expertise lies in subjugating failures and making them do his bidding. He concentrates on his manipulation as Leo keeps guard. David immediately pulls White Chaika out of harm's way and shouts at Selma to retreat. The wizard sniper is ready, shooting smokescreen after her comrades as cover for their escape. Meanwhile, Toru, Akari, and Red Chaika are surrounded by the flying creatures. There are too many of them for the two saboteurs to handle. Red Chaika pleads with them to free her and allow her to use her weapon. Toru has no choice but to give her back her snake blade. At once, Red Chaika uses her excellent combat skills to strike at the cockatrices. It's clear that her strength lies in her fighting skills, as she easily cuts a cockatrice into two. Soon, the creatures fall one by one until there's no more. The siblings and Red Chaika run back to the automobile where Frederica is waiting for them. Toru asks her to unearth the wheels of the vehicle, which Frederica grudgingly does. Since she's the only one who possesses magic that the saboteurs trust, Frederica drives the vehicle. In the forest, Matthias is disappointed in his failures. Leo consoles him, telling him that what matters now is to report to Gillette what they have witnessed. Knowing that there have been multiple Chaikas captured in the past, they both wonder about the validity of the existence of the girl known as the Emperor's daughter. In the continent's capital, Vermac, the Council of Six Nations gathers to discuss matters regarding their respective countries. After their victory against Emperor Gaz 5 years ago, they have been ruling the lands left by the Emperor. But instead of focusing on restoring peace and order, they're more focused on their personal interests and stakes. They leave this matter to the Kleeman organization, which they've taken for granted. They want Chief Conrad to order Gillette's Corps to retreat from their reconnaissance and retrieve missions to help the nations with their internal problems. Chief Conrad is not exactly an assertive person. His calm demeanor is not fit to talk back to the forceful dispositions of the representatives, who can only think about themselves. Back at Perimeral, Akari scouts the market for potential dangers or information. This time, it's David that reaches out to her. He tells her to meet them at the Perimeral Plaza before sundown for the hostage exchange. Akari agrees and goes back to her group to report. They decide to take a break on the city's outskirts until the agreed time. All the while, Red Chaika has been looking at Toru. She's seen how strong and dependable he is in a fight. He, together with Akari and Frederica, will be valuable assets in her goal to collect her father's remains. She invites him to work for her, and even offers a higher pay. Toru tells her that saboteurs don't betray their masters. However, it's clear on his face that a part of him is considering it. Frederica approaches him and tries to discuss it. Frankly speaking, there's no difference if he switches from White Chaika to Red Chaika. The goals are the same, the enemies are the same, but the pay will be higher and Red Chaika will be much more helpful in a fight. In addition, if this Chaika manages to collect all the remains, war will come again, which will mean more jobs for saboteurs like him. These are all good considerations, but Toru remains tight-lipped about his opinion on this matter. When the time finally comes, Toru and Akari accompany Red Chaika to the promised location. Just like earlier, only David and White Chaika are there, which means Selma is hiding somewhere. For the last time, Red Chaika pitches her offer to Toru, but he flatly refuses her. He says that she's strong both mentally and physically, while their Chaika is very trusting and unguarded. Between the two, she's more capable of being independent. Toru opts to work for someone who will need him more. In that regard, their Chaika fits the bill more than her. Feeling left out and betrayed, Red Chaika has no choice but to walk back to her old group. Her mood is in great contrast with White Chaika, who cheerfully says goodbye to David. Eventually, the exchange becomes a success, although Selma tries to get a hit on Akari. It turns out it's actually Frederica who poses as the sibling. The real Akari ambushes Selma, but the latter gets away. As they leave the city, Toru assures White Chaika that he'll work for her and her only. He'll fight their enemies, no matter who they are. As he says it, Red Chaika and David block their way. They're demanding Toru to surrender the remains they've collected so far. Of course, he refuses. He gets out of the automobile and faces the enemies while his sibling hunts the wizard sniper. A short fight ensues. White Chaika casts a light spell that blinds David and Red Chaika. Soon the latter gets defeated, which makes David decide to retreat. Their comrade Selma also escapes from Akari's knives. As they continue their journey, Toru warns his companions. They need to watch their backs from now on. Not only are they being hunted, but now others want to steal the Emperor's remains from them. Who knows how many other Chaikas are there with the same goal? A few days pass. The quartet decides to take a break in a forest. Just then, Guy finally makes an appearance. About time as well, as they don't have any more clues on where to go. Guy tells them information about the third hero who holds Emperor Gaz's remains. His name is Simon Scania, a wizard hailing from the Koenigsegg Empire. He says he disappeared 4 years ago after the war. He points them to a town where they can get more data about the said wizard. After a restful night, they set out on their journey. They arrive at the small town. Chaika wants to buy some magic fuel for the automobile. While she's doing her shopping, the Acura siblings gather more details about Simon Scania. They learn that he's been missing for 4 years. His last known location is a place known as the Valley of No Return. Since then, a lot of people have tried looking for him, only to end up missing as well. That's because once someone goes to that valley, they never return, hence the name. For Toru, it seems like it's only logical to go there despite the dangers it presents. They all head back to their automobile, when he senses something is watching them. He's right. The automobile that Gillette's core is using is shrouded in magic, courtesy of Zeta and Matthias. A confrontation is inevitable between the two. Gillette won't follow what the council tells him to do. There's so much more to uncover about Emperor Gaz and his supposed daughter. He can't be bothered by farmland disputes. A fight ensues between the two groups. In the middle of it, Gillette asks Chaika her purpose for collecting her father's remains. With all her sincerity, Chaika says she wants to give her father a proper burial. Gillette is so taken aback by this answer. Of all the things he expects her to say, this is not what he anticipated. The fight breaks when Frederica joins them in her dragoon form. To keep her from causing more harm, Toru orders her to fly them towards the Valley of No Return. They see the place as a great, long chasm filled with fog. Even with Chaika's reliable locator spell, they can't figure out what's below there. She presumes the thick fog is the magic itself that repels her spell. With no choice, Chaika decides to scale down the cliff. The saboteurs follow. However, the cliffside becomes precarious due to their weight, causing them to fall. Frederica has no choice but to follow into the unknown abyss and save them. When Toru wakes up, he sees Chaika by his side. They're the only ones left, with Akari and Frederica passing away after falling into the Valley of No Return. Chaika says she depends on him, to which Toru is satisfied to hear. He doesn't notice nor mind the different speech patterns that Chaika has. Together, they travel to find the Emperor's remains. However, when only one of the remains is left, Chaika suddenly betrays Toru and goes with Gillette, who incidentally has the last part. She says she's going to marry him after putting back her father's remains together. They both sound absurd, especially with the fake laugh. The betrayal breaks Toru's heart. Gillette and Chaika leave him, with the horse pulling a fancy carriage that contains her coffin. This all seems real, at least for Toru. That's because he's having a vivid hallucination. While he's getting carried away, the three girls can see what's going on inside his head. They watch his delusions as if they're watching a movie. Chaika explains that the fog is causing strong hallucinations, so strong that the victim won't know which is real and which is not. This greatly explains why people who tried to enter this place never came back. Their visions became so realistic they got engulfed by it. The only reason why the girls are safe is because Chaika has put a magical barrier around them. Frederica says she wasn't able to reach for Toru when she jumped to save them. Chaika adds that they have no way to save him without getting affected by the fog. The only way he can escape his fantasies is for him to run towards them. That's when Chaika can temporarily lift the barrier to let him enter. As she says that, they see Toru running towards them. He's chasing an imagined Chaika riding with Gillette on a white horse. Akari gets ready, just as Chaika lifts the barrier. When her brother crosses the threshold, Akari trips him. Toru falls hard to the ground. To make sure he's fully woken up from his fantasies, Akari slaps him repeatedly. Thankfully, Toru returns to reality, albeit with a bloody nose. The girls explain what happened. It's hard to say if he's embarrassed by his experience. Nonetheless, they now have an idea of how things work in this valley. They only need to find a way to escape. Chaika suggests shooting long-range spells. Her magic can counter the effects of the fog. When she shoots in a straight direction, it creates a temporary tunnel that they can run through. If she continues shooting, they'll eventually reach something in this vast nowhere. Between her and Frederica, they can generate enough magic for this. Toru considers this a good idea. All set, the siblings get ready as Chaika shoots her first shot, with the siblings as the group's forerunners. Toru can still see remnants of his fantasies from the sidelines. Chaika continues to shoot a couple more times before the siblings can glimpse the silhouette of a huge satellite-like structure. Chaika prepares her ultimate shot. When she shoots, magic spells enclose the structure, destroying and splitting it in two. Soon, the fog disperses, revealing the bottom of the valley. The structure turns out to be the dwelling of Simon Scania himself, the wizard they've been looking for. He's become deranged and looks unkempt after a long time of withdrawal from society. From his ramblings, Toru and the others learn that he's been betrayed by a colleague who sold them out to the enemies. After the war, he's been gifted by one of the Emperor's remains, but he's too hurt by the betrayal. He chose to stay in that place and created a magical fog that would show anyone the betrayal of those close to them. When Chaika steps forward to ask for the remains, the wizard lets her have it. Then they leave him by escaping through a small passageway through the rocks. Later on, during their travel, Chaika remembers Toru's imagination. She focuses on the fact that he's persistent in helping her with her goals. She lets him know that she appreciates it. After failing to capture Chaika, Gillette and his group return to their organization's headquarters. Gillette has decided to split his time between tracking his quarry and learning more about the Emperor. After that short conversation with the white girl, he starts to doubt their mission and the organization as a whole. All the supposed madness and evil that the Emperor represents don't seem to align with the daughter who only wants to hold a burial rite for her father. Meanwhile, Chaika and her group run into a group of bandits. It's obvious they're bandits, but they're claiming to be a prestigious group that aims to revive the previous regime. They call themselves the Neo-Gaz Empire. They have Froll, the Imperial Guard, Mart, the General, Lava, the Minister, and the most important person in their group, Princess Chaika. Toru can see right through their lies. In fact, anyone can see right through their lies. But Chaika, being the naive and trusting girl that she is, goes along with it and gives Froll a silver coin. Because of this, Froll and others further claim that Toru and others look suspicious, and therefore must pay more fees to pass. Akari comes in clutch and says that they're travelling entertainers, and they're also struggling with finances, and so as proof, they are demanded to perform tricks for the princess. The quartet has no problem doing it. They all look natural with their movements. While they are performing, Froll keeps looking at Chaika. He finds her familiar, but he can't quite put his finger on it. Eventually, he forgets about it because of Frederica's halfway transformation as a dragoon. They stay with the bandits that night. Their true identities become more solidified as a group of men arrive, hauling the so-called donations from their wealthy supporters. Chaika and the princess talk about the latter's goal of reviving the empire. She says it's never been the same after the war. The princess takes Chaika's hand and makes her promise to support them. Chaika wholeheartedly says yes. Then one of the men calls the princess for an urgent meeting. The urgent meeting turns out to be a preparation to raid one of the wealthy men in a nearby village. The princess's real name is Julia, and she's the head of the bandits. She instructs her men to take care of the new group and rob them of all their belongings. And with that, she leaves with Lavro. They enter the mansion through the window. Unfortunately, the military is already waiting for them. It looks like the soldiers were tipped off about an anticipated robbery that night. Lavro escapes, leaving Julia imprisoned. He runs back to the base, where he finds all his comrades tied up by the saboteurs. It's been revealed to them that the white girl is the real Chaika, the daughter of the late emperor. Despite this pathetic capture of the bandits, Lav still asks Toru if they can save Julia. Toru initially doesn't want to, but Chaika pleads with him. Giving in to his master's request, they proceed to the prison where Julia is kept. Akari saves her and tells her the situation. Her cover blown up, Julia and the others apologize to Chaika for the trickery. They also express their gratitude for saving them. They reveal that they used to live in the countryside during Emperor Gaz's reign. However, after the war, they were displaced and became homeless. When they initially gathered, they truly intended to revive the empire. But seeing how difficult it was, not to mention the powerful people who made sure that everything would stay in a way that would profit them, the bandits lost hope. They resorted to thievery to support their living. Chaika tells Julia it's not too late. They can still hope, and they can still create goals and attempt to reach them. Her father's empire is not yet lost. Julia smiles and thanks her for the inspiration. Before they leave, Frol returns the silver coin to Chaika, signifying they're turning over a new leaf in their lives. If there's one valuable thing they've learned from their encounter with the bandits, it's that they don't know anything much about the late emperor. In fact, there doesn't seem to be any reliable or readily available information about this enigmatic person. Chaika herself is not sure, since she has a memory gap. After traveling for a few days, they arrive at a town near the capital. Chaika says she needs to buy more magic fuels, as their remaining stock is about to be used up. Toru asks if there are other replacements for magic fuel. Chaika confirms it, saying that one's memories can be used as a magic source. In their world, thoughts, feelings, and memories are fundamental in the creation of magic. Remembering what Chaika told him about her memories, Toru decides that they should walk for now to conserve their remaining magic fuel. Although he doesn't say it out loud, Toru is concerned and doesn't want Chaika to use her memories. However, they come to the town at the wrong time. That day happens to be the end of the war anniversary festival. Wizards all over the continent are buying loads of magic fuels to create pyrospheres in the sky. In one store, they're only able to buy a menial amount. The owner is kind enough to list down other stores, but he tells them not to get their hopes up, as magic fuels are always sold out everywhere at this time of the year. In the capital of Vermac, Gillette and Vivi are shopping for treats for their group. During their walk, they witness a snatcher about to run off with a lady's wallet. Gillette stops the guy, and Vivi holds him in place. The snatcher says it's his right to take the money from the rich lady. He struggles from Vivi's grip, as Gillette returns the wallet to its owner. He turns to the snatcher and tells him to write to the government for support instead of committing crimes. But the snatcher says he's done it months before, but with no results. He says the government doesn't care for the has-been soldiers who fought in the war. Gillette is surprised by this. He asks Vivi to let him go. He's been quiet throughout the trip since then. It looks like not everyone has benefited from the end of the war. Many have become jobless, abandoned, or displaced. Their organization is established to maintain peace and order throughout the continent, but encounters like this prove that it's never an easy job. Vivi tries to enlighten the mood, but fails. Instead, she asks if they can buy sweets. She sees the fortune cookies and wants to try to see her future. She gets one, and Gillette gets one as well. For Gillette, his paper says, "A sword drawn at night can never be sheathed again." As for Vivi, her paper says, "It's your unchanging love that will save your loved one." Back at their headquarters, Zeta and others talk about their leader. They all admire Gillette's strong sense of justice. However, they notice that after meeting Chaika, it's become clouded. He is starting to question their organization's purpose and who they are really working for. Their conversation halts when Chief Conrad's secretary comes. She looks for Gillette because an urgent mission has come. Meanwhile, Toru, Akari and Chaika keep on looking for stores to buy magic fuel. True to the shop owner's words, almost all stores have closed down for the festivities. They learn that their stock may take 2 to 3 days to replenish. Along the way, they see a line of peddlers traveling out of the town. They've also sold out their merchandise. Toru remarks that seeing the peddlers brings back memories from when he was still training as a saboteur. He tells Chaika that he and Akari had originated from the secluded village of Akura, which was known for producing great saboteurs. He also adds that he and Akari are not siblings by blood. But their training, which started when they were young, had made them develop a familial bond with each other. Their mentor, whose name is Shin, was very strict about their activities. Chaika can see that Toru and Akari are close to each other, and she finds it wholesome and funny. Sunset has come, but they haven't found any stores that sell magic fuel. Akari decides to go back to their automobile, leaving Toru and Chaika to continue. Eventually, they find one store that still has a lot of stock. The owner is not fond of the festivities because it reminds him of his wife and son, whom he lost during the war. While waiting for their purchase, Toru asks Chaika if one can choose which memory to use when using it for magic. Chaika says it's impossible. Either you lose your memories or use magic fuel. Toru says he asks because he has one memory that he wishes to forget. It's the memory of a peddler named Hasumin. She was part of a large party of peddlers who used to visit their village often. He fancied her when he was young, even though she had her own family. Unfortunately, bandits killed her and the other peddlers. Their village took revenge on the mercenaries who did it. But nothing has ever been the same for Toru. He blamed himself for not being strong enough to save Hasumin. Chaika looks at Toru and says that's not true. Because of what happened, Toru changed for the better. If he didn't, then he might not have saved Chaika from the unicorn when they first met. Even though they are painful memories, they're still part of who he is. It only proves that he has lived, and will continue to live and make new memories. The shop owner comes back with their merchandise. To the pair's delight, he tells them they can buy large quantities of magic fuel from the neighbouring territory owned by Duke Gavani. There are a lot of mines there, and the Duke personally manages this business. He adds that there are rumours about the Duke owning one of the Emperor's remains, which he bought from one of the heroes. With that information, they set on their way toward Duke Gavani's territory. Coincidentally, that's also where Gillette and his group are headed. They've been given the mission to find out what's happening there. It turns out, an emissary sent by the Council of Six Nations has been killed and sent back in pieces. The emissary was supposed to convince the Duke to return the floating fortress Sawara. Toru and others finally arrive at the said territory. Their first impression is that the town looks bleak and dreary. But what's unnerving is that there are no women in sight, both adults and children. It's soon revealed that the Duke's fortress known as Sawara periodically lands in their town and in other places, and recruits only women and children. That's why they all looked bewildered upon seeing Chaika. The pair looks up and sees the enormous fortress looming above them. Toru's instincts tell him they shouldn't let anyone from the fortress see her. That night, Toru asks Frederica to fly them near the stronghold for surveillance. He and Akari agree that there is no possible way in from the outside, which means an inside help is needed. Akari is chosen to infiltrate the fortress. The next day, the stronghold arrives in town again. From a speaker, someone is announcing the mandatory enlistment of women. Soldiers are instructed to use force when taking those who refuse to follow. Akari successfully joins the unfortunate group of females who are now being escorted up inside. Then she easily slips into one of the hallways, while the others are brought into several rooms. What she doesn't know is that Vivi and Zeta from Gillette's Corps have also managed to infiltrate the stronghold. They send a report to Gillette, containing the following information. The inside of the floating fortress is divided into several floors. The lower floors are comprised of storage and empty rooms. The higher they go, the tighter the security becomes. That's logical if one assumes the control room is on the top floor. A man named Grad Lancia seems to be in charge of the operations. A kid following him is presumed to be related to Duke Gavani. The women who are brought in are all entered into several rooms, but there's no definitive information about their purpose here. As for the fortress itself, they will keep investigating to find out why the Duke is operating it using large amounts of magic. Meanwhile, in Vermac, the council members are getting agitated about the lack of action on their part. One of them, a particularly aggressive and war-savvy general, says they should have used punitive force ever since the remains of the emissary were sent back to them. They've waited too long to subjugate the traitorous Duke. It's time to take action. Chief Conrad attempts to de-escalate the situation and assures them that his associates are already doing their best to neutralize the enemy. But the members are thirsty for conflict. They ask the king for the final decision. The king, who's not much better off when it comes to firmness in ruling, abides by the council members. He permits the fortress Stratus to go ahead and subjugate the traitor Duke Gavani. He sends that particular general as the head of the operation. Defeated and with no choice, Chief Conrad contacts Gillette and informs him of the impending conflict. Even as they speak, the vanguard troops are already mobilized to meet Sawara halfway. There's nothing he can do but order Vivi and Zeta to escape from the fortress by themselves. Disappointed by the turn of events, Gillette decides to meet the vanguard troops and stop them no matter what. Unaware of the imminent danger, Toru, Chaika, and Frederica infiltrate the fortress through one of the windows opened by Akari. The latter reports what she has observed inside. As they roam the lower levels, they see a towering pillar at the center of the stronghold. Chaika identifies it as a gundo. This implies that large amounts of magic are being utilized to operate the whole fortress, and this gundo is the weapon that channels that magic. There are so many questions inside Toru's mind, one of which is about the source of magic. Can it be that a single body part of the dead emperor powers this massive stronghold? If so, for what purpose? But there's no time to think. The guards have already found them. The leader has already stabbed Frederica through her chest. After discarding her body like a doll, the warrior then attacks them. Toru grabs Chaika as he shouts at Akari to find their companion and meet somewhere in the fortress. Akari understands the mission, so she runs away. However, she soon gets surrounded by the guards. They capture her and bring her to Grad Lancia himself. The wizard is smiling at her as if pleasantly welcoming a guest. The kid from earlier makes his appearance again. He introduces himself as Riccardo Gavani, the younger son of the Duke. He looks innocent, but he has the propensity to cut up people and take joy from it. He admits to doing so to his family, making him the last Gavani. He intends to cut up Akari too, but Grad stops him. He knows they can use her skills to capture the others who have infiltrated the place. So he brings out an inhalant and forces it onto Akari's nose. Then, when she's hovering between waking and unconsciousness, Grad brings out his gun and shoots a spell directly on her head. On another part of the fortress, Toru and Chaika have managed to escape their captors. He's confident that his sister will find Frederica and meet with them soon. They are on one of the bridges when a girl wearing a hood approaches them. She says she's one of the captured females and is looking for a way out. It's surprising that Toru never questioned the girl, or why she keeps her face hidden by the hood. Before he knows it, the girl has separated him from Chaika. As he is about to follow them, several knives stop him in his tracks. To his horror, it's his sister Akari under a controlling spell who's fighting him now. The girl brings Chaika to one of the more elegant rooms on the upper levels. She introduces herself as Layla. She looks at Chaika with a great deal of curiosity, but she leaves her to go to the control room. There, she finds Grad and Riccardo. They are waiting for her before they can give out the orders to their wizards to mobilize the fortress. Their goal is to travel to the capital to destroy it. Riccardo is the one with the foolish dream of becoming like Emperor Gaz, and Layla and Grad are there to help him achieve it. Their first step in doing so is by taking over the capital. In a way, the council is justified in using force on them, even though the original suspect is already dead. Toru and Akari continue to fight viciously. He can't help but wonder why his sister chose to betray Chaika. They are saboteurs and their code is to remain loyal to anyone who hires their services. Because of this uncertainty, Akari manages to get past his guard and pushes him over the bridge. He falls, but fortunately he gets saved by Vivi and Zeta. At first, Vivi is not amenable to the idea, but Zeta points out that their dire situation calls for cooperation from both sides. They can inform him about the upcoming confrontation between Sawara and the incoming Stratus. They can also help him look for his comrades. In return, He can help them escape once they find Frederica. With these conditions, they decide to join forces. They walk along the upper levels of the fortress when Zeta notices something. There are bloodstains on the wall. Curious, Toru pulls out one panel. What they find inside is something straight out of a nightmare. The kidnapped girls are hanging upside down, bloodied and unconscious from their torture. When they look around, they realize all of the walls of the fortress are made up of panels. It's horrifying to even try to imagine what they may find if they open them all. One of the girls manages to speak, albeit weakly. She asks them to help her, but the three of them know there's nothing they can do. Zeta finally understands some aspects of this bizarre but terrifying situation. As explained earlier, memories, thoughts, and feelings can be used as magic fuel. They're more potent than the ones mined from the ground. And to produce a better quality of magic, the memories must be dense. Inciting fear, despair, and intense pain on the more susceptible female brain can power up a huge gundo, just like the pillar they all saw in the middle of the fortress. If it's true that Gavani has one of the remains of Emperor Gaz, then the magic generated inside the fortress is at an extreme level, thanks to these poor victims. But it seems shallow that the final goal is only to operate the fortress. Vivi thinks there's more to this than meets the eye. With the knowledge that another fortress is on the way to stop Soara, they can safely conclude that this stronghold is going to the capital to cause massive destruction. Toru can't help but be concerned, especially since Chaika is still in the clutches of Layla. The white girl is nervously waiting for her host to come back. When she does, Layla offers her a cup of tea, then sits. She looks relaxed and content, which greatly differs from Chaika's guarded stance. Layla asks Chaika if her task is to retrieve all the remains of her father. The latter looks confused. Layla says that used to be her goal too, until she woke up. When she pulls down her hood and removes her cloak, finally revealing her face, Chaika can't believe what she's seeing. Layla is another Chaika, one that wears blue and exudes an alluring yet dangerous aura. She says when she became conscious as a Chaika, her first thoughts were to collect her father's remains as soon as possible. She found out she was gifted in alchemy. She used this ability to create potions and drugs that would lure men to become her allies. Then she woke up. She doesn't remember how, but she remembers feeling intense and violent emotions. With her waking up came the realization that she was one of the many Chaikas that were created for the same exact goal, to collect the remains of Emperor Gaz. Each one was created with false memories and controlled will, and given a specific skill set to achieve this mission. When she realized she was merely a tool, she stopped being a Chaika and gave herself the name of Layla. Then she met Ricardo and Grad. She decided to aid them in their purpose, as her revenge for the ones that made her that way. Chaika is still processing this fact when they get interrupted by Frederica. She seems to be alright after getting stabbed earlier, but this is only for a brief moment, as a hideous beast that looks like an escaped SCP creature creeps up behind her and stabs her in the head. Then, grabbing Frederica's body, it creeps away as fast as it has appeared. Layla looks nonchalant after witnessing this. She leaves Chaika alone in the room with her troubling thoughts. Somewhere in the fortress, Toru, Vivi and Zeta are fighting Akari and her guards. She proves to be a formidable opponent against the three of them. At one point, she throws multiple knives at Vivi. Toru is fast enough to pull her out of the way, but not fast enough to get stabbed on his shoulders. Vivi appreciates the gesture. So, with Zeta, she promises to deal with Akari and release her from the spell. He must go now to find Chaika. Toru agrees with them. He jumps out of the window and scales the side of the floating fortress. While all this is happening, Gillette and Leo meet the vanguard troops on the ground. The commander of the troop is Cavalier Theobald Cetra. He demands to know why someone from the Kliman organization dares to stop their advance. Gillette says his colleagues are still inside the Soara. He also adds that there's not enough evidence to prove the Duke's treachery, and that's why they infiltrated the fortress in the first place. He requests an audience with the general who is leading the fortress, Stratus. However, the general is too excited to display his power and control to be bothered by any insignificant communication. With that, Cetra orders Gillette to stand aside. The latter refuses. He draws out his sword and points it at the Cavalier, an act of insurgency. Their dispute comes to a halt when the two massive fortresses, Soara and Stratus, meet in the sky. The general orders every wizard inside Stratus to give everything they have to shoot extremely dense and powerful magic at the enemy. But Sawara is prepared. Its defense is impeccable, given what powers its Gundo. They return fire, which hits Stratus in its lower levels. This begins an exchange of fires between the two strongholds. They are so intent on destroying each other, they don't pay notice to the people on the ground. One unfortunate misfire hits the vanguard troops. Only Leo is able to avoid it. The rest, including Gillette, have been annihilated. Inside the fortress Sawara, Vivi and Zeta manage to pin Akari down. Zeta uses her gun to shoot a spell on the saboteur. Fortunately, Akari wakes up without any dire consequences. She still has her memories of how she was influenced by the wizard Grad, which is why she's intent on getting back at him. But she adds that the sensation of wanting to follow orders was too hard to resist. She tells Vivi and Zeta about Ricardo and his crimes. Together, the three of them proceed to the upper levels. On their way, they see the bloody corpse of Frederica. All of a sudden, the corpse's chest burst open, revealing a chibi Frederica. She nonchalantly explains that she experienced getting stabbed in the head before, so as a precaution she created a small version of herself tucked inside, just in case. She leads the girls into the room where she last saw Chaika, but when they enter, she's nowhere to be found. What they see there are unsettling SCP creatures. The girls get ready to fight, but the Dragoon has beef with them. Frederica transforms into her monstrous self and devours those creatures. Akari leaves them to go to the control room. She sees Gradlantia alone in controlling the wizards. She smacks him in the head. Instantly, all the guards and personnel inside the fortress fall to the ground. Meanwhile, Chaika has escaped earlier from the room. She roams around until she gets in front of a large hall. Inside is one of the Emperor's remains, embedded in a network of wires that fuel the whole fortress. Layla and Ricardo are also there. The two spot her. They easily capture Chaika. They pin her on top of her coffin. Ricardo is excited to cut her up when finally Toru appears. He has managed to reach them, fighting numerous guards despite his injuries. Ricardo sets his eyes on the saboteur. An intense knife fight ensues between the two. The Gavani kid is confident he can win due to the exhaustion present on Toru's face. But his arrogance, combined with his lack of fighting skills, is his downfall. He stabs Toru in the arm. He gets stabbed in the critical part of his stomach. Toru tells him all his slashes are just that, and are useless in a real fight. Seeing that her ally has been defeated, Layla escapes. Toru and Chaika don't pay her any attention. Both are grateful to know each of them is safe. They retrieve the item, then they get out of there. All they need to do is to meet with others and get the hell out of there. But their situation becomes worse. Enraged by their inferior magical prowess, the general of the fortress Stratus orders his men to ram the Sawara. This maneuver causes both strongholds to crash into the lake. Inside Sawara, everything shakes and gets wet as water penetrates through holes. In one of the bridges, Toru and Chaika encounter Layla again. She shoots Toru, making him fall into the lower levels that are already filled with water. Then Layla looks at Chaika. She's furious that the latter still chooses to be a tool. If that's the case, then Chaika is better off dead. She aims her crossbow at her, but becomes distracted when she sees a floating guy behind Chaika. Layla looks taken aback. Chaika takes this opportunity to shoot her with her spell. Then she jumps after Toru to save him. Thankfully, it's not too late. She uses her magic to create a bubble around them. With Frederica's arrival, all 6 of them finally escape to safety. Layla returns to Ricardo and stays with him until the end. Vivi and Zeta return to their colleagues. What's supposed to be a relieving reunion becomes upsetting when the two girls learn that Gillette perished in the fight. For some unknown reason, Vivi turns grey. Meanwhile, Toru and the others rest beside the lake. Chaika relays to them what she learned from Layla. She's now at a crossroads in her life. Will she continue looking for the Emperor's remains and become a mindless tool, or will she choose to wake up like Layla? In the end, she chooses the first one. It seems like it's the only way to find the answers to the burning questions inside her. In addition, the journey will be easier as long as she's with her friends. Toru respects this decision. He assures her he'll remain loyal to her. As usual, Akari follows her brother. As for Frederica, she offers a contract with Toru, which will make him a Dragoon Cavalier. He says he'll think about it. Chaika's journey is far from over. It remains to be seen whether she'll fulfill the destiny that's been thrust upon her. When she finally collects all the remains, she'll need to face the truth of her past, the fate of her present and her choice for the future. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.